YouTube, how's everybody doing? Welcome to our second cast of the day. And this might not be the match you guys thought we're going to cast. I understand there are two more matches happening in this time slot, DSP against HKL, and we have the folks of TX46 against DSN going up against each other. Two other matches at the same time slot. But as we've mentioned in previous streams, on top of trying to show you the best possible match, the most exciting ones, the closest ones, we also want to showcase as many alliances as possible in this tournament. And some of these alliances are fighting for their lives in the tournament right now. UCS against R96RZ, sorry about that. Bam, there's the group right there. This group is actually not fighting for their life. One of these two alliances will not win this match, obviously, and go to a 2-1 situation in here. But the thing that's really interesting is that UTB and K42 are going up against each other, and one of these will have the 1 point. So the outcome of this match will determine a significant amount in this group right here, because there is potential for a final day's upset, which we haven't seen before. Now, before we get into what this matchup is going to be and into all the things we have to talk about right before the match, we're about 8 minutes out. And before all that, we have our good friends Chiskel Gaming in here with us. And he's about to talk to us a little bit about commanders you should keep your eye on the field. So, yeah, Chiskel, whoa, what you got here for us?
What is going on, Governors? Chiskel here, and we are going to get a quick look at some of the very best rally leaders that you should see on the battlefield, and we are going to be on the lookout for to call them out to your attention so that we can hone in on just how effective these commanders can be. There are several legendaries that you should be looking out for, starting with none other than Yi Seong-Ye. Now, we all know why this commander is truly transformative on the battlefield, and that is because Arrow Storm, their expertise skill, which is unlocked when you max out every skill on this commander, is going to do area of effect damage in a circle. Instead of a cone hitting 5 targets nearby, this is a huge amount of damage, and it is so easy to find 5 targets when the area of effect is a huge circle around the commander. I would expect Yi Seong-Ye to be paired, if he is the primary, with a commander like El Cid, who is also very, very powerful as an archer commander. Another commander that you should be looking for as a primary in rallies will be Alexander the Great. Now, Alexander the Great is a relatively new commander to Rise of Kingdoms, one of the newer commanders into the game, and they are optimized for being in the field and participating in rally leadership as either the primary or secondary commander. I expect that we'll see Alexander the Great paired with either Richard I, Charles Martel, or perhaps even Constantine, although Constantine is a bit rarer, more unusual to see this commander on the battlefield, and it's possible that in that configuration, Constantine should be the primary. In that situation, of course, we're talking about bringing full infantry, and my personal favorite pick for all of those is probably going to be Charles Martel as the backup to Alexander the Great for maximum effectiveness in the open field, and due to the counterattack that Charles Martel offers, making it very difficult to swarm that rally. Now, the next commander that you really should be looking for, because they are so fun to play with and also terrifying on the battlefield, is Khan. Khan has a tremendous rage engine if they are the primary. They require only 950 rage for their active skill, whereas most commanders require 1,000. Their second skill is lowering the amount of rage that it was required to fire off that active skill even further. And within the talents, you can find some pretty incredible rage restoration via Rejuvenate and other places, such as Feral Nature, so that you are machine gunning out skills, and it is terrifying. There's a bunch of commanders you could pair. I would argue that the very best choice would be a commander like Saladin. Saladin has a ton of that anti-swarm technology that I was just describing by reducing the skill damage that they would take. And also, they've got a lot of defense and attack, a little bit of march speed. Another commander that I really like as a pairing would actually be Minamoto, who is, in my opinion, somewhat underestimated for the passive skill Warlord, increasing the damage taken by the target by a solid 30%. Now, the last commander I want to talk about for rallies that you should be looking for is none other than Edward of Woodstock. This is a relatively new commander into Rise of Kingdoms, and they are insanely powerful in the open field. They have the single strongest nuke in the game, the single strongest, most damaging active skill, and I would argue that the very best pairing here is going to be with Tamaris, also new to the game, due to her poison elevating the skill damage taken by the target, and also the more poison that you stack up, the more damage that Tamaris is going to do. So because Edward's first skill actually does require more rage. This is the opposite of Khan. Khan required less rage. Edward requires more rage. You could see some really, really powerful attacks from Tamaris because it gives more time for that poison to build up and just do a huge punch. I hope that we start to see more of this commander on the battlefield, and you should be looking for them too. Hopefully you find this set of advice about who to look out for on the battlefield and which rallies will be most exciting to be interesting. And let's take it back to you, Gecko, in the studio.
Thank you very much, Chiskel, for that quick commanders overview. You guys know now which commanders you're going to see on the field in the marches, on the rallies, on the open field. We're going to be seeing many of the commanders that Chiskel mentioned through the fight today. We're looking at a pretty weird fight right now, pretty weird matchup, right? We're looking at the individuals from UCS, one of the most unknown alliances in the game, Kingdom 2. That is right, Kingdom 2 with boatloads of power, coming in with boatloads of power, and 2.6 billion strong. Their matches as of late, they had a very tough one against UTB, and they kind of cruised along through their group stages, but their opposition are actually 1.8 billion power. Now you guys are gonna say, Gecko, why did you guys choose this matchup out of all of them? There are so many good matchups going on. The reason is we've got a little bit of intel that the 96 RZ number is not exactly correct, as there was a massive increase of power after those numbers locked in. That's my understanding of what's going on in there. And on top of that, as I mentioned, these folks have been doing such an amazing job, and so have the guys from UCS. We had to get them in at least one of these casts before we wrap up the group stages of the playoffs. With that being said, you guys don't seem too faithful in 96 RZ, and I can understand why. Quite significant betting deltas in here. And so with that being said, the one thing that is missing out of all this is to introduce to you guys once again your commentators of the day. Can you guess who they are of this match? You see them right there? That's right, myself and my good friend Dragothian. I believe Dragothian is on the line with us right now. I think.
Hey Gecko, yep, I'm here.
How's it going, man? Are you ready for this match? We're about a minute out of the match. You got any closing thoughts to this pre-game before we start going into the action?
Yeah, absolutely. So UCS is the known quantity here, right? UCS is the golden child from these two alliances matching up. 96 RZ, I got a great chance to watch 2 weeks ago when they had their match. Very solid performance, and went up against a bigger opponent that week too, and they won. So looking forward to seeing it.
That is right. Their previous matchup, their last matchup, they went up against someone who was 150 million power stronger than them, and they won. You guys saw that up here previously. We can put that on the screen really quickly again for you. This matchup was against someone bigger, and this was an upset. So don't count them out just yet. But we're about 10 seconds from the field opening up. And you guys know we have a little bit of trauma after that first week. we never really know if it'll truly let us watch. And so we hope and pray as we go into the match, and indeed, we make it into the open field. And so since we're on the open field, it's time for you guys to make it there as well. So let's go to the battle.
All right, welcome everybody to another match. This is the second match that we're going to be casting for this Osiris League playoff weekend, and another huge matchup between two massive alliances that have two great strategies that are going to be viewed on the battlefield today. I'm really looking forward to seeing how each side decides to play this matchup. We had a great look at two different types of strategies being employed by the first matchup of the day, and I'm looking forward to seeing what UCS and 96RZ are going to be doing for their respective alliances. This is going to be a good one, not just because of all the raw power that's going to be on the field that you're going to see, but again, these are strategy type alliances. Each one uses their own effective battle strategies, making sure that they do the best they can for their alliance and helping them notch that extra critical point for their group so they can advance to the round of 16. What are you thinking, Gecko?
So I'm looking on the open field right now, kind of looking through the two groups. We have about 1 minute and 20 seconds till the gates of hell open and all hell breaks loose. I'm seeing more people missing so far. A lot of people are missing from what I'm gathering, and I'm not sure whether this is real or this is a bug. But I gotta go over something that we're gonna hear a lot today, and that is, unfortunately, Lost Kingdom ended yesterday or over the weekend. And what ended up happening is some folks ended up in different alliances to receive their rewards of their Lost Kingdom. And now they are unable to go back into their main alliance as the alliance cap went down. And there's a lot of issues with the Lost Kingdom rewards right now, and individuals who were in different alliances. So it wouldn't surprise me to see matches today that have incomplete individuals. That also kind of answers our question as to how come people didn't go 30 versus 30. I'm hearing of a few alliances who have already told me that they're not going to be putting in their A game into today's match, not because they don't want to, but because their main players are locked in out of the alliance before the alliance size cap went down. So it's an important one to remember.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And as we get the 5-second countdown here, hitting us right in the face and getting us ready for this matchup, I look to see a bunch of cities. Yep, here they come. All the port-ins. That's 30 replacements. Yeah, and here comes the pour. Here comes the pour of troops.
Yes, sir. But again, if we take a quick look at the numbers, we're looking at 30 from 96RZ and 25 from the UCS's side. Now, again, they were not missing that many people, the folks from 96RZ. They had 27 and 3 ported in. The folks from UCS had 22 individuals, which means, and now 25, which means that they'll have 8 replacements versus the 3 on the red team side. Strategy works really well as long as your team knows it and has coordinated, practiced, and synchronized their play. But once you let substitution in, how much experience does the substitution really have?
Yeah, it's a good thing to keep in mind, right? I mean, both of these alliances have been playing this game mode since it was released, so they're going to have some form of like base strategy that they use every single time. But that being said, the more you can get your A team players, and when I say A team, I mean obviously these 60 players on both sides are probably A team in their own right, but the 30 players that have been in ARC nonstop together for the first 2-3 months that we've been having these types of matches, you start to develop some cohesion. You start to develop a sense of, I already know what you're going to do before you do it. Once you start adding in replacements, it's not that they're not going to be able to perform on the battlefield, but they might not have that second sense of, I know what my teammate's going to be doing before they even do it. And that could slow some things down. It could also limit the amount of complex strategy that we're going to see on the battlefield today from both sides.
Less synergy, as some of these individuals hadn't had the opportunity to mixing in the waves of the synergy of the main alliance. That's how it works. And yeah, it's a big problem. We're seeing 8 rallies launched very early. 4 on each side, on both obelisks, both offensive and defensive rallies coming in. Curiously enough, I've yet to see one break, which means these guys are going for a hit. They're not looking to stop. They're really not looking to stop at this point in time. UCS with 4 rallies, and so are 96 RZ. And all these things, these guys are marching. Red team did start a little bit ahead with their 2 obelisks captured early on, but the blue team is catching up and catching 2 of their outposts first, so it'll kind of even itself up. Let's see if any of these rallies hit, and maybe we'll have a little bit of a steal.
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm seeing one outpost finally being captured on the blue side for UCS. It's funny, they had marches going by them and not actually capturing it. That being said, yeah, it's going to start evening out. Of course, you got all your outposts and your obelisks captured at this point. Look to start seeing troops and all the armies start to position themselves forward to go ahead and take their side of the map and get those 2 altars and 2 shrines secured as soon as they pop. And again, let's look and see how quickly the ever forgotten Shrine of Life gets capped right away, or is it maybe 10 seconds behind?
I swear to God. That thing is like the bane of this map's existence. I swear to you, you're going to go compile the data, and I promise that that bottom Shrine of Life is the one that's always last to get captured. You know, one of the things we usually do on these casts at this time, very early on, is we ask you, the folks in the chat, what do you guys think about this matchup? Who is going to win? Let us know in the comments section, hashtag UCS or hashtag 96RZ. We want to know what you guys think. Let's see what the community has to say about this match. The betting showed how much faith they have in UCS. But at this stage, it's a 29 against 30 with 7 substitutions for UCS. Oh, that doesn't sound too good for a start.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's starting to even out from an actual player standpoint. We talked about what that could mean from a strategy perspective. Let's see if they start to do some more complex things and are able to actually execute, or if they have to kind of dumb down the strategy because of the extra players that might not have necessarily been in on the main strategy sessions at the beginning. The good alliances in this league are the ones that have not just 30 but 60 participate. I'm sure these 2 are the same way. And I can see these the rallies starting to really head towards this obelisk down here at the bottom. And let's see if they decide they want to break, or if they decide they want to go ahead and let this thing hit. It's going to be interesting to see.
And there's the break right there as soon as you finish that sentence. And that rally right there also got a little bit of damage on it from the open field combat that was here. There's a stupendous amount of cavalry on the open field right now. And I gotta say, these infantries just don't care. They're heading towards this desert altar, not even caring about these cavalry marches all over the place. And they're just soloing that desert altar. Huh.
I don't know if that's the best strategy. They've already got some folks sitting there waiting to reinforce. And like we said in past matches where this has happened, right? This was a play to try and ninja capture the desert altar. 96RZ was ready for it. Look at all the marches that are around that desert altar, just really putting it to the fighters from UCS. And if you're going to swarm a building, guys, if you're going to swarm a building in the Ark of Osiris or Osiris League, you got to bring nukers. You cannot use infantry unless it's a really, really low defensed objective. You can't do it because you're not going to have enough raw damage. You're going to cause a lot of damage to the people attacking you, but again, you're just not going to have enough damage to put that objective in your camp and make sure that you pop in there so that you're defending as one unit. The only time that makes sense is when you're actually rallying with the infantry, and at that point, yes, it's a good idea to keep that rally going, take the hits, because anybody swarming an infantry rally is a madman. You're going to be taking so much counterattack damage, like Chisco said earlier in the video. That it's even if you don't take that objective, you're still causing a massive amount of damage to the troop armies, and they're going to have to refresh, which means they're going to have to go back to their city, and that means they're not pushing forward and taking your objectives.
Yeah, one thing to mention here, red team starting off strong. 3 altars in their favor. They picked up the desert altar away from the blue team from UCS. First occupations haven't happened just yet. We haven't really discussed first occupations this week. And so really quickly to explain to you how this works, every building has its first occupation bonus. The first time the 3-minute timer goes down and a team locks it in their favor, there's an extra 750 points for the alliance that's victorious, and an extra 75 individual score for each individual within there. Now, unfortunately, I wanted to include a little bit of in-game sound in this match, and I'm hearing it very, very, very faintly. The chat saw me playing with the volume a little bit. Unfortunately, I put it way too low. I forgot that Skype lowers the volume of everything even further. So hopefully next matchup, we'll bring that up a little bit, have a little more sound effects in the background. And while all this is going on, this desert altar is holding strong. And it's the only thing UCS are really focused on right now.
Yeah, I'm really curious. So I see there's an Edward and Tamiris, which are the 2 newest commanders in the game right now, one from the Wheel of Fortune and one from the Mightiest Governor event. That's something I haven't seen yet. I haven't seen a whole lot of green poison arrows getting thrown around here, so that's very interesting to see. Another thing to note, again, you can see that everything has been simplified graphics-wise, so very smooth gameplay, very easy to follow along and see what's going on. Something that maybe will pay significant dividends as we start to go throughout the rest of this day, and when we start to have 5-6 matches at the same time slot, this could be that little extra that we all needed to make sure that we have that experience that we're all looking for. That being said, 3 altars in general from the red side being rallied at this moment. Lots of things going on. Also, the Shrine of War on the right side too, also getting attacked. Definitely UCS is on the push. They're on the move. But I don't see a whole lot of open field reinforcement for these UCS rallies, which means really all they have to do from a 96 RZ standpoint is just weather the storm, and then they'll send UCS back to their bases without anything to show for it. And then that will give 96 RZ a really good chance to start pushing their offensive strategy, which it looks like they're already trying to do.
It's really cool to see UCS all of a sudden wake up a little bit, because they got a little, they got slapped early on, right? Unfortunately to say, they got slapped early on with the first occupation bonuses really working in the favor of the folks from 96 RZ. They already picked up a nice little 2,000 point lead, which means that even if UCS pick up right now the first Ark of Osiris, which was something we talked about so much in the last cast, it won't last at all. As a matter of fact, the red team is 300 points per minute in the lead, and so in 3.5 minutes, they'll have a bigger delta from the blue team than the Ark of Osiris points, and therefore, this first Ark can go to UCS if our 96 RZ choose to let it go there, and not really have to worry too much. They're still way in the lead with 230 points per minute, a decent 2,000 point lead, and an offense being mounted. Desert Altar being rallied, Sky Altar being rallied, being swarmed and rallied. That Sky Altar is about to go down for UCS. Some marches making it closer and closer, but they won't make it in time. Sky Altar.
Yep, there it goes.
Dropping, and UCS. Wow. You guys doubted the choice. All I gotta say is you guys doubted the choice, chat. But here we go. 2.6 or 2.3 billion power against a 1.8 billion power, and it's not stopping them from showing what they're made of.
Wow, yeah, and that's exactly what just happened, right? So they just lost the Desert Altar at the top to having UCS take it back, but then they immediately already have a rally taking the Sky Altar on the left side as well. That's a coordinated alliance if I've ever seen one. And while that was all happening, what was even funnier was in the middle, so the Ark of Osiris is about to pop in 50 seconds. In the middle, it was hilarious to watch these 2 powerhouse alliances literally staring at each other across the map. They were all sitting there. There was 20 of them on each side, and they were just staring at each other. It was hilarious to watch. Now, of course, it's the exact opposite, and they're certainly duking it out with UCS looking like they're coming up on the advantage from a troop count standpoint, but it also looks like a few of the players that are at the Ark for 96 RZ aren't engaged just yet. I don't know if they're maybe trying to grab that arc as soon as it pops and start hightailing it back to the red side while they're also pushing on the objectives from the outside too. Wow, this is going to be a good tight arc kind of combat in the middle here to see who brings it out.
So I saw that red team started pushing blue out back into their own zone. The first thing you got to do in here, which is what Mira is doing right now, is drop that arc on the red side. That's a 15-second gain for the red team. For the blue team to now walk this arc. Oh, sorry, someone else picked it up earlier. So this is a gain for blue team. Yeah, exactly the other way. 15-second grace time for blue team right now, which red team have to go around. Now, the funny thing that happened here is red team started pushing in and into blue, and it made UCS really back off of the temple almost till the last like 20 seconds when they realized, wait a second, these guys are pushing us away. And they started pushing in. It was very, very close. It was a nice attempt if it was coordinated. I choose to believe it was based on the fact that we're seeing 96RZ doing some very interestingly coordinated hits. The thing that you pointed out that I really have to emphasize even further is the coordination on the rally hits when it comes to the altars. What the red team did is essentially they traded altars, which sounds very, simple. But as long as they keep doing that consistently, they'll maintain their 300 plus point lead because they are taking away 150 points from the folks at UCS, and on top of that, they're gaining themselves 150. So as long as they keep continuously switching those altars around, you'll see what you're seeing right now, 200 plus lead in the favor of red team, and they're even getting that arc further and further down. Man, UCS.
Yeah, they're grabbing it. They're definitely going crazy. They had the arc. 96RZ had the arc, and they were hightailing it out of there with the Belisarius. Mara from 96RZ going ahead and picking it back up and starting to move it along even further. Again, though, with those debuffs that arc gives the carrier, that there's a lot of UCS folks sitting there. However, with it being this far down, and again, having support on the back end, it's just a matter of time, unless UCS is able to bring up more support, which it looks like they're trying. It's just a matter of time before that arc eventually starts to get back to a point where 96RZ can capture it. And like you said, they're 37 ahead already. If they go ahead and cap this again, that's going to give them a very nice buffer to look at. Now, that being said, if we look at the obelisk for 96RZ down south, a minute ago, this YSG rally was looking very, very good against the Khan-led obelisk of 96RZ, but I believe they took notice whenever they were doing the arc, and they went ahead and said, okay, well, we probably should put some folks inside of this obelisk. So they did that, and now it's starting to get defensed, and it looks like this YSG rally from UCS is going to go down. And wow, again, no support here, but I think, again, this was more of a traction rally than it actually was to say, hey, I want to capture this right this second. If that was the case, they would have had 20 or 30 armies over here saying, this is mine, and we're going to take it.
It definitely seems like what UCS was trying to do is just delay a little bit the inevitable, take that focus away from that Arc of Osiris and R90 and 96RZ's focus on that arc into the obelisk, which worked, by the way. A couple of marches did make their way back. You can see a much bigger presence of marches around this obelisk. So they did manage to get 96RZ to back off a little bit. But 96RZ right now, if they want to win this match, all they have to do is straight up, first of all, keep doing what they're doing, really. And secondly, don't let that arc go anywhere. These guys have been leading with 300 points, 250 points and more every single moment so far in this match. They've been doing this in a way that is just detrimental to the Arc of Osiris system itself, because quite frankly, if red team is going to stay ahead 300 points the whole match, that arc is not going to have that much significance. And the more time goes by, the less arcs will be able to spawn. And therefore, as long as our 96RZ don't even capture this arc, just slow down UCS's push for this arc, they seem to be the favorites in this matchup, quite frankly.
Yeah, looking at it, they're doing it on both sides of the fence. They're not only really controlling the open field, which is critical when you're talking about objective claiming and making sure that you can take what you want, when you want, how you want to. But then again, they're putting up a significant fight in the middle. Now it looks like UCS does have the arc, and they're starting to move it on back. I think eventually it just became too many troops from UCS coming down and pouring through the middle, and then coming around the edges as well to go ahead and stop 96RZ from taking it back to their side. However, 96RZ is not giving that arc up without a fight. They are definitely going after the arc carrier, and with that debuff again, that con bringing back that arc is going to go down very, very quickly.
We had to pan out really quickly to the Sky Altar at the top because UCS's rally was so close to take that Sky Altar away. Last second, an army by 96RZ made it in to hold the Sky Altar for just long enough for a couple of other marches to make it. And next thing you know, there's 6 marches surrounding this rally, and the Sky Altar is secured. Desert Altar still being rallied by 96RZ, and UCS don't have any open field presence in here. A march is 16 seconds away from the Desert Altar, and I don't think the Desert Altar will hold the 10 seconds it'll take. We'll see in a second if that happens. That's the only altar in favor of UCS, and quite frankly, that's almost half of their points total. Can this march make it in time? It barely makes it in time. And a second march makes it in to keep the reinforcements strong. But hey, the rally is still vivid. There is a open field presence by the guys from 96RZ. I think they're still pretty confident about taking this and about keeping UCS busy at trying to save this Desert Altar. This allows them to do exactly what you have been hinting all the time, that they're coordinating the rallies so well. This is how you coordinate rallies that well. You create a gap in time where the other team is solely focused on the one target, and that gives you the breathing space to make the rest of the rallies work.
This is exactly the point where you swarm. You've got nukers there. You've got an altar that's about to go down. This would be a huge blow to UCS. But again, just like they just lost the Sky Altar to the left, they're going to try and retake this. And there you go. They swarmed. The rally was solid. They went ahead and took it back. Less points for UCS, more points for 96RZ. That's exactly the game plan. They're just swapping altars. They're just swapping altars on each side. So, okay, you're going to come over here and take this one that I just took from you. Cool. I'm going to hop on the other side of the map and go take this one while you're focused on taking that one back. They're just popping back and forth. That's a really good strategy. Now, at the same time, we've got the arc starting to go more towards the UCS side, and it's getting to the point, because of that points per minute total, that UCS really needs to capture this arc to stay competitive out of this match. If 96RZ is able to bring this thing back to a red building, that's going to be a tough one to come back from.
I'm trying to click on the march that is currently holding that arc. As soon as it starts moving, it'll be a little bit easier. Yeah, and it dropped right there. The real reason I want to click it, and we're going to wait for someone to pick it up to see. I want to see how long it'll take UCS to march it all the way back wherever they want to march it. I am going to throw a number out there, which it'll probably be at least a minute and a half worth of a straight march. With a minute and a half, the folks from 96RZ made 450 points. Just to give you a little bit of context, that's 15% of the points that arc is going to give just in the march alone. With every minute that the 2 or 3 pesky, annoying 96RZ marches are in that situation they're in right now, holding that arc where it is, and the folks from 96RZ leading by 300 points per minute, I mean, I don't think that soon enough this arc will even be enough to get close. Remember that there's still another, 7 minutes between the arcs? 300 points, 7 minutes, 2,100 points. How do you come back from that?
It's going to be very tough. And I was looking to see if 96RZ had any rallies going. It looks like they've got one, and it's about to march. It's waiting on, it looks like one or two more armies. The thought was, again, you've got the arc on the other side of the map with UCS kind of controlling the field over there because there's just not enough raw numbers from 96RZ to combat the 12-ish armies that are sitting there and defending the path so that they can take that arc. My thought was that maybe they're going to be sending a rally to go ahead and see if they can make it to the obelisk or something with those cav, and then fast march over to see if they can intercept. So they'd have 1.5 million troops coming from the top side and coming from the bottom side and meeting in the middle. 3 million troops sitting there waiting for that arc capture, and then the battle starts all over again. And like you said, the points per minute differential is a little bit narrower right now, but it's still in heavy favor of the red team with 96RZ. So if they can continue to make sure this arc does not get captured, make sure that it doesn't spawn at least 2 more times, they've got a very good chance of winning this match against a very powerful opponent in UCS.
So once again, as soon as you finish the war narrower, the one altar that was waiting to be controlled by the red team got locked in, and we're back to 300 points per minute lead for the red team. And as you started your part of our conversation here, I clicked on the march that's carrying the arc. It still has 36 seconds remaining to wherever it's going. It had 1 minute and 20 when it started marching straight towards that outpost. Hey, it's there. That's 450 points for free. Look at the difference between the two teams now. They're almost double the points. The guys from 96RZ almost double the points of UCS. 3,000 points is barely going to scratch the surface. Even 2 Arcs of Osiris back-to-back right now for UCS is not enough to close this gap. And to make things worse, the points per minute game still favors 96RZ. It won't last though, because the map has finally come back to its natural state where each team owns its own half of the map. And now what we're waiting to see is who is going to make the first move. It looks like UCS are the ones doing it. Desert Altar at the bottom going in their favor. And for the first time in this match, UCS haven't only evened up the point per minute game, but they have a potential of taking a massive lead.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the potential, but they've got a long way to go. Right now, the points per minute total is even though the buildings aren't. And it does look like 2 more altars are at least getting attacked. It looks like 96RZ at the top was able to fend off the attack from UCS on the top one. Just taken, obviously, the one you just talked about, the UCS-led Desert Altar on the 96RZ side on the bottom. And they've got a Richard in there. He's hard to dislodge. There's no doubt about it. And there is quite a few armies from both teams sitting there skirmishing on the outside. I would definitely be sending a rally from 90RZ to hit that. Looks like they've got 3 going, one of which is battling right now at the very top Shrine of Life. And that one's going to be interesting. That one's a little bit on an even playing field too. There's a lot of stuff going on this map right now. I bet if you asked 96RZ, hey, if 30 minutes into the match, everything was kind of even from a structure standpoint, and you'd be up by 3,000 points, over 3,000 points, would you take it? I'm sure they would.
And unfortunately, though, you said one very important thing. 33 minutes remaining. The match is nowhere near over. In 6.5 minutes, we have another Arc of Osiris. The Arc was successfully delivered by UCS, and UCS seem to have started to really put their foot down on the gas. They've had enough, and they're starting to push hard. The Obelisk at the bottom, finally, this YSG rally against what was for the longest time an Ethelfled-led defense on the Obelisk. It looks like this YSG will be successful at defending this Obelisk. Desert Altar being hit by a solo march right now at the bottom, and Sky Altar being swarmed at the bottom as well. No rallies being sent by 96RZ. And I think there's one of 2 things happening at this point in time. Either one, they're going, oh my god, we're doing this, oh my god, we're doing this, oh my god, we're doing this, and losing focus. Or the fact that they have that less amount of power considering the power that UCS has, maybe their troops are starting to slowly dwindle down, and that could be a huge problem if they need to survive another 31 minutes against a raging UCS who are trying to come back out of a 7,000 point deficit at some point.
Yeah, I look to see once we get to the end of the match and we get the summary, just like the first match of this weekend, I look to see probably a significant advantage going to 96RZ from the healing perspective. So they're going to be bringing troops back, I'm sure. That being said, I think it's a piece of what you just said, but also they put a lot into that arc. They did put quite a few armies and quite a few governors into that arc capture. And again, even though they didn't get it, they did delay. And delaying when you have a significant points per minute total, which has now evaporated, um, it's almost as good as actually capturing it. So they were trying to do their jobs. They put quite an investment of players in the middle to try and at least delay as much as possible and hopefully capture it. That's, I think, a piece of it alongside of, like you said, there is a little bit of a, hey, this is going to happen. We've got this thing locked down. We've got all the structures in place that we're looking to do. We're putting them on their back foot as much as we possibly can. That being said, looking at this Desert Altar at the bottom, there is a rally on it right away. They're not reactionary. They're already proactively activating those rallies across the map. A lot of good stuff going on from both sides that I'm seeing.
Yes, sir. And I think it's time for us to highlight one member here from the side of UCS, and that is none other than Endgame, who has two marches right here that are about to back off as the swarm comes into the Desert Altar. Endgame being UCS's leader, one of the most notorious players in the game. Before any of us were thinking about rallying 100 million power players in groups of rallies, this guy went and solo rallied his own alliance mate, who ended up leaving the kingdom with a significant amount of power. This is a player who knows the game inside out, has all the commanders maxed out to the T, and as you can see, his one march is pushing back a substantial amount of 96 RZ marches. This guy knows exactly what he's doing, and I wonder how he is right now, how the comms are looking in UCS's side.
I'd love to be a fly on that wall because right now, again, 96RZ has even the points per minute up by taking that Desert Altar back. And again, staring at the map, they've now got three altars generating points, or at least starting to. Let's see, 1, 2, and no. So 2 out of the 3 are generating points. One of them, it still has 2 minutes left. But again, even though they're not generating points yet, that means that they're not generating points for UCS. So that's another win for 96RZ. They're holding their own on their own side. They're doing what they need to do to survive and hold off the UCS push. And now I can definitely look at seeing maybe in the middle, and let me go in there and see. Looks like they're starting to posture in the middle already. Good job by UCS keeping the fight on the 96RZ side so that hopefully they can keep them pushed down for about 2 minutes or so. So maybe a Lancelot who's sitting at the temple getting attacked can take that arc and roll. But it doesn't look like that's going to be able to work out for Mary John from UCS.
Shout out to that
definitely making it
Lancelot.
happen.
Shout out to that Lancelot. Look at that. The audacity you need to have to put a Lancelot on the Osiris League playoffs group stage to capture an Ark of Osiris is truly astounding. It tells you that UCS's mentality, they don't care what stage they're in. They have their gameplay, they have their plan, they know what they're doing, and they're just executing it. Whether it's a simple Ark of Osiris match or Osiris League, they've been practicing these moves over and over through the seasons from the first Ark of Osiris. And I guess this is the second time they really, or maybe third time, they really face a big opposition. They've had a few good big matches against other big alliances, including the only loss JWM has on Ark of Osiris comes from the folks of UCS. So even though I see a lot of people in the chat not giving UCS too much credit, this is one of those alliances that set the standards for most of the game, and they're showing exactly who they are, slowly clawing back from 7,000 points down to about 2,500 points.
Yeah, just again, looking at these the altar situation, it's going to start piling up very quickly. This Desert Altar is about to capture in 1 second, and there it is. There's the big bump in the points per minute total for 96RZ, and now that delta with the points is going to start expanding again, and that's when the altar starts really becoming important. And looking at that altar, it's got 20 seconds left, and sure enough, 96RZ has started pushing the attack. It looks like they started a little bit earlier, that way that they could make not only push it towards the temple, but also pushing the UCS players back to their side so that they can do the same thing that UCS was trying to do themselves. And there's those poison arrows from Tamiris. I love seeing that on the battlefield. I'm really looking forward to seeing that combination of Edward and Tamiris in the future, see exactly how that plays out. It looks like it's doing some pretty quality damage.
So far, nobody's picked up the arc just yet. Which side is going to drop it on which side? Again, 15 seconds goes in the to whichever side takes it. Red team
Oh,
seem to be the guys who have
got
taken it here, and they are marching. Dragothian, UCS, my man, UCS. What is going on?
96RZ is definitely putting on a show on how to keep a larger alliance on their back foot. UCS is doing a great job, don't get me wrong, but 96RZ just seems to be a little bit more coordinated with what they're doing, not only in one spot, but on all three lanes of this map. I mean, just look at the Belisarius army carrying the arc. Not only do they have the right commanders, and Lancelot would have worked as well. He's a mobility commander that would work out for carrying the arc. This army is also less than half health, which activates the charge talent on the cavalry tree, which gives you an increased speed on the battlefield. And obviously, Belisarius being a mobility commander as well on the blue tree definitely is giving. Look how fast that arc is moving.
He is
I
flying.
very rarely will see an arc moving that fast, and he's really starting to outrun this Mina army that's getting hit from behind. Even with him being a full army without an arc, he's going to get dropped before he can really touch that Belisarius. That's insane. That is insane. That's fantastic move by 96RZ.
All right.
Fantastic.
So let's give Fog a little bit of a credit. 2 hits is all he managed to get because while all of his alliance mates seem to have given up on this arc, he kept going in. Him and Malash seem to have really wanted to try to stop this arc from marching towards red. The map is a little bit split, more favoring the blue team right now, who have 2 Shrines of War and 2 altars out of the 4. The folks from 96RZ right now have a pretty interesting situation. They're about to take in an Arc of Osiris worth 3,500 points, and they're going to really, really run with this match right now. But look at the aggression that UCS are starting to employ. We're seeing the two altars belonging to 96RZ blinking, even though one of them seems to be able to hold on by itself. The other desert altar at the bottom doesn't look to be in the greatest of shapes. And as I say that, 96RZ bring more troops into here. Man, I'm starting to look for ways out for UCS more than look for ways for 96RZ to win. We went into this match thinking 96RZ are the ones who are in here to try to win. And at this point, it looks like UCS are the ones who are here trying not to lose.
Yeah, 96RZ has definitely came here and put their stamp on this match, and I was about to go into that. The first match of the day we had today, you could clearly see, this is what this team is doing. This is their strategy. This is their objective. This is what this team is doing. This is their strategy. This is their objective. 96RZ has got a clear strategy. Hold the arc when it makes sense. Go for it when it makes sense. But structures of the game, keep the opposing team on their back foot by alternating rallies on different lanes. In the middle, pressuring when it's time, not necessarily just having troops there the whole match. That's a solid strategy that a lot of top-tier alliances are using on the battlefield every single week. That being said, when I look at UCS, they're doing stuff. Don't get me wrong. They're doing tons of things. They just captured the Shrine of War about a minute ago, which looks like, again, because it's right beside the obelisk for 96RZ, it's going to eventually go back down. But, I don't see the clear cut, okay, this is exactly what I'm doing. They're being aggressive, but then they're also being defensive at the same time somewhere else. They're not putting together a fully coordinated, this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it, at least from what I can see. I'm sure they've got something like that. But you can just see the difference when you're looking at this map and seeing the things that are blinking at what times and seeing where the troops are at on the map at any given time. It just looks a little crisper for 96RZ.
And as you say that, we're spectating the Ark of Osiris holding with a very large escort around it. It's standing still right next to that outpost, trying to just, milk the timer as much as possible. On the one hand, that's a very understandable and very interesting play to make. But on the other hand, look at how many marches are preoccupied with trying to save this arc. If these guys really want to hold on to this arc, take it further out. Take it to the next outpost at the back. Take it to to anywhere. You can go much further back than you are right now. and free some of these marches to go back to take over the map, because the folks of 96RZ are not leading the points per minute game anymore. They finally closed the map back to be like a symmetric map like it in theory should be, but they're focused so much on protecting this arc, which could just march even further out and make the UCS have to march even further. And I don't know. While holding on to the arc is a strategy that I love, I really do think it's very interesting to see it happen. The way they're doing it, they're wasting a little bit too many marches, in my opinion, on safeguarding this arc.
There's just over 19 minutes left, and I agree that there's probably a few too many marches around that arc carrier. But again, just look. I mean, UCS is sending 1, 2, and they're one at a time. And that Belarus can certainly outrun, even with the arc, that Richard getting smacked by 7 different armies. There's no way that army is going to even come close to touching. He might not even have to move. That being said, again, just looking at the rallies, you've got 5 rallies active and or battling from a marching and battling standpoint for UCS. They are throwing the kitchen sink at this point. We've got to get these buildings. If they're not going to capture that arc, we've got to get these buildings. On the other side, you've got 2 from 96RZ. They're basically turtling at this point. So we've got the points advantage. And if you think about it, we're holding the arc. So right now, there's a 3,000 point delta on the actual scorecard, but they've also got a 3,000 point wild card sitting in their back pocket ready to capture as well. So it's really a 6,000 point game right now. The amount of arcs that are going to be available in this match is quickly dwindling down to 1. So the longer we get the closer we get towards that 7-minute mark, because it takes 7 minutes for one to spawn, right? So 7 minutes is the key. If they can hold this arc for 7 minutes and then capture it while still keeping the structures that they've got in place, even with the 80 point per minute delta that they've got to the negative, they're going to win. It's as simple as that.
One of my favorite things about Arc of Osiris is when the whole map starts blinking and you're like, okay, don't panic. Everything's okay. What are we looking at? So we looked at the bottom obelisk for a little while because it looked like it was going to go down, and it still looks like it could go down and UCS capture that bottom obelisk. We'll have to take a look at that. But this top sky altar right now being severely hit by a rally and a few marches around. Fortunately for 96RZ, they have plenty of open field presence in here to try to hold on to the sky altar. I don't know whether or not it'll be a successful hit by UCS up here or not, but that's not the only altar they're rallying. Desert altar at the bottom being rallied by Endgame. The rally not too successful as of right now. And on top of all that, 96RZ took back the sky altar at the bottom, dropping UCS back to the back foot of the points per minute game. The rally on the obelisk finally broke. Rally on the sky altar at the top is going strong, but it also won't seem to hold at all. There is massive open field presence in here, and that can easily go into the sky altar as well as fight. I don't know what to say. 96RZ. My intel apparently was very solid. These guys are very, very surprising.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that I'm not surprised because, again, I did see them a couple weeks ago, and they put on a clinic on beating a larger opponent. And again, though, when you're talking about the caliber of alliance like UCS, you think, well, at some point, just raw power wins, right? This is a little bit to the contrary, right? You got 3 of the 4 altars in your favor. It looks like this end day UCS rally on the desert altar in the middle of the 3 that are blinking. It's going to be down to the wire. You've got armies from both sides, but the benefit obviously going to 96RZ. They're right there. They're right there at the obelisk. All they got to do is pour 3 or 4 armies inside of that desert altar, and they're back up. They're good to go. So that should stay in favor of 96RZ. And then when we look at the top blinking sky altar, again, it's right there beside the obelisk. They can go ahead and casually drop the rally that's hitting it. That one's about to break. So they're going to keep everything. They've still got the points per minute advantage. They've still got the actual points advantage in the match, and they've still got a 3,000 point wild card in their back pocket, having that arc just sitting beside their outpost, ready to rock and roll. And now we're getting close to that 15-minute mark, which is closer and closer to that 10 and 7-minute mark, which is critical for another one to spawn, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late to have another arc spawn here coming up in the next minute or two, because it's just going to take too long to bring that arc back to their side to actually capture it. And then again, is it going to even be enough?
See, at this point, I can't even, I don't know if I can agree with you about the whole 96RZ not being surprising. Maybe because you watched them, you had a little bit of a better knowledge of what they do and how they do. But man, they beat an alliance that was 100 million power stronger than them. Don't get me wrong, that's a huge accomplishment. But we're talking about 500 million power difference between these two alliances. This is not by any means how this should look like. Again, the big problem for UCS was from the moment we started the match. 22 individuals out of the main alliance, the main lineup, and 8 substitutions. When you have more than 20, almost 30% of your marches being on the open field being individuals who haven't been as coordinated with the team, exactly like you said, Dragotian, it's impossible to really read the strategy, because half of these folks, well, a good almost 30% of them don't truly know what the strategy is. And even if they do to an extent, they haven't practiced it enough and coordinated it enough. Yes, sure, some of these folks go into sub-alliances and do Ark of Osiris regularly every week, for sure, 100%. But do you take it as serious on the substitutions on the sub-alliance as you take it in the main alliance? Do you have the same kinds of calls? Do you have the same kinds of rally leaders, kinds of strategies? No. So the practice these 8 individuals had with the main alliance, with the main crew, is probably what's really killing the strategy here. And of course, let's not take any credit away from 96RZ. These guys have a very, very clinical, solid, well hammered down strategy, and their team is just doing amazing work.
Yeah, they are. It's actually really just so fun to watch, just seeing all the different pieces of the map unfold, and altars being dropped, and shrines being taken, open field battles being won, the arcs going back and forth, and really just back at this point, obviously having had it sit in 96RZ's hands for about 10 minutes, looking pretty on the map inside of that Belisarius army, just keeping a hold of it. Looks like UCS did decide, hey, we want to go ahead and do something about that. And they went ahead and sent a bunch of armies down to go ahead and swarm it. And then they went ahead and captured it. So now we're looking at almost an 8,000 point delta with 12 minutes left. I know you like to say a lot, when do we start to think about calling it? I would love to hear inside the chat who you think is going to pull this out. It's looking more and more like folks are leaning more towards 96RZ now, but do that hashtag UCS or hashtag 96RZ, and let's see what's going on. UCS still putting up a fight. They're not going away. The map is even right now from a structure standpoint, but the points per minute is still in favor of 96RZ because they have them all captured right now.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that, there is still space, time, and hope. But realistically, as far as I can see, UCS have never been able to keep a solid lead in the point per minute game for longer than a couple of minutes. They had the point per minute game in their favor for a minute or two here and there, but more often than not, Royals just had it in their back pocket this whole time. Now, the Ark is about to spawn in 4 minutes and 47 seconds. Does 96RZ even care? Probably not. Probably not. We are clearly seeing zero commitment to the center by the folks from 96RZ. And I very much believe this is not only the best play, but a very, very, very good indicator to show you the mightiness of the players in 96RZ. Because, man, the composure it takes to not go after an arc this late, the composure of understanding we have to let it go, because right now they can take this arc all they want as long as we keep doing what we're doing and taking the center forces to do UCS Sky Altar rallies, to do UCS Desert Altar rallies. The win is going to be 96's, even if UCS take this arc.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, at this point, 96RZ is probably like, who cares? Go ahead and do it. We've got almost an 8,000 point lead. We've got the points per minute, not advantage, but they're locked up in the middle. So that arc is not worth 8,000 points. It's only worth 4. or 3 or 4. Yeah, 4, right? Because we're on the third one now, right? So right now they're going to be sitting in the back, and they're just going to start sending rallies. And obviously UCS is going to want to put a good chunk of people in the middle just to make sure they support and secure that arc, which means that those buildings will be just a little bit less defended for those rallies to start popping off. Just looking at this, right, you got 3 coming from 96RZ and 5 rallies coming from UCS as well. They're going to make a hard push with 10 minutes left. I think it might be just a little too late. That being said, they're not one to give up. I know that for a fact. I've seen them just go time and time again, making sure they're trying to do everything they can to be the winner. But it's looking like, again, just a little bit too late. I wonder those folks that are having to replace the folks that weren't able to make it for the UCS team. I wonder how many of those were really primary strategists. Maybe some of those guys were the ones that were really leading some of the sides. That's something to kind of keep in mind as we start to unfold exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, I think that at this point, first and foremost, none of these teams is the losing team on this match, which will be apparently UCS, is not out of the league yet. We mentioned that in the pregame that these guys are 1-1, so there's still hope for UCS. If they win their next match, they will be guaranteed in. And by the way, Dragothian, a small correction for us from earlier on. So far, we don't know yet who is eliminated and who is not. And even though some individuals might lose a match and therefore not have a win yet, I've noticed that some groups can get to a point where one team has 2 wins and 2 other teams have 1 win. So even with 1 win, it is possible to continue on, which means that even if you lost the first 2 matches, as long as the other teams aren't pulling that far ahead, the third match can still keep you in the game. So nobody's out just yet. Now, on top of all this, in the last few moments we have in here of this match, I'd like to first of all thank you for this awesome cast and let the community know that this has been brought to you by Lilith Gaming and the sponsored content creators of Rise of Kingdoms. All of our links are in the description down below, and we appreciate every single one of you with us today. If you want to come help support us a little bit, you're more than welcome to come down to our channels, hit that subscribe button, send a comment on our latest message. Let us know you guys found us out through this stream. All links in the description below. And of course, smash a like on this stream as well.
I always love seeing how many always love seeing how many people come to watch these guys, especially UCS. They're such a big draw. They're known, like I said, they're the known quantity in this match. 96RZ definitely showing how to take down a giant, and it's just going to be interesting to see. I would love to have this type of match and this type of setup for showcasing this to the community expand, and this would be a perfect example from a match standpoint to really get that expansion done. Being able to do an after action conversation with the leaders from both teams, being able to get that audio and saying, hey, what happened? We saw this happen. Can you explain this? I'm really looking forward to seeing this cast of the Osiris League and really this event in general really escalate and blow up and just have a huge following and a huge exposure when it comes to being able to showcase what these alliances and these players are doing, because this is such a fun thing to watch, and I certainly love casting with the team that we've got assembled here. This is a blast. I absolutely love watching this stuff, the strategies that are being unveiled and used and executed. Wow, this is just so fun to watch.
Well, even today, now, when UCS could have taken this Ark of Osiris, Mary Joan was not allowed to carry the Ark. That's the job of that march, and Mumfu was not about that life. He wants to carry the Ark by himself. No real reason. I don't really understand why not let the Lancelot take the Ark, but it's okay. Whatever. It is what it is. It's important to note, though, that a lot of folks didn't give this match the time of the day. Quite frankly, a big portion of the individuals watching Ark of Osiris right now are not in this match at all. They're in the other 2 matches, and because of the power despair, a lot of people wrote 96RZ out of the match altogether. This goes to show you again that even a giant can have a bad day, and if Goliath is having a bad day and David is having a very good day, sometimes things do tend to happen. Now, before we continue with this match, I just want to give the viewers a quick update. DSP and HKL right now going at it. DSP with almost 30,000 points against the 32,000 points in the favor of HKL. And TX46 up against DSN. TX46 with a big boy lead, 45,000 points in their favor against the 23,000 of DSN. So it looks like the DSP match is getting a little close. I'm keeping an eye on it. It has 500 out of 500 observers. Just goes to show both the matches have 500 out of 500 observers. All 3 matches being fully spectated. Boy, oh boy. What an event.
Yeah, it's such a great game mode. I love it so much. So again, looking at what the strategy is, right? So it looks like UCS is about to capture the arc because again, 96RZ is not doing it. They're not giving any attention to it because if you look on the map, you got the Sky Altar and the Desert Altar at the bottom flashing. You've got the Sky Altar for UCS flashing. There's so many armies on the battlefield just saying, hey, go ahead and take that arc. We've got the 7,500 point advantage, which will drop to 3,500. That's a thing. But we've also got an almost 200 point per minute advantage as well. Now it is 200 points per minute, and we're going to just defend. You just ran out of time. I mean, it's a matter of time. Like, you have to.
I don't think time would have helped them.
Match.
I honestly don't think time would have helped at all. 96RZ taking all 4 altars now. It seems like UCS have officially not given up, but realized it is game and going for individual points, perhaps. What's the situation of the individual points? Do you see?
I haven't even checked. I'm all about the alliance.
You're all about the alliance. Well, I can tell you both teams seem to be good to go on their individual alliance scores. Everybody with individual scores of 10,000 and above.
Yeah, so when I say it's just about the time, like 96RZ, they incorporated time as part of their strategy. So they incorporated it to the point where we're going to do this around this time so that we know if we keep this arc for this many minutes, the match is ours because we're going to go ahead and defend our side. They're not going to be able to push us, and we'll be good to go. Again, that's what I mean. Like, we have to view time as a resource, just like the troops and just like the commanders and just like the players in the match. Time is a player on your team, and you can make them either work for you or not. And in this case, 96RZ has made time work on their favor, in their favor, on their team, and again, that's why they're winning. They're winning handily, even with that arc getting captured, or at least very soon, by UCS, or he's just kind of wandering around at this point. It looks like the arc carrier is like, nah, this outpost is not really suited for this particular arc.
Yep, and 2.5 minutes remaining. I believe it is time for us to engage with chat one more time. Chat, let's get those GGs up in the chat for the folks of 96RZ who just took out a giant. UCS about to fall to 96RZ as my game freezes, which is okay. This is not the end of the world. Unfortunately, we might not get to see the very, very, very end. Hopefully we do. But regardless, that matchup, boy, oh boy. Let's get those GGs flying in the chat, and hopefully it'll help us get back into the match. Let's see if Lilith fixed our little observer issue or not. So let's see.
They did.
They did?
They did.
Oh,
yeah, and
yes.
so unfortunately or fortunately, I do have experience commentating when multiple views are bugged and we can't see everything just yet, and I'm still in the game. So just kind of to give you a little update while you're loading everything back up. Tons of 96RZ armies on the battlefield swarming any kind of rally.
We're back.
That UCS is bringing. There's 1 minute and 20 seconds left in the match. And again, the arc carrier is still just kind of meandering around for UCS, just kind of doing a tour, maybe, just kind of taking the arc around and saying, hey, this is what it looks like. I'm not quite sure why he passed multiple buildings to go to where he's going to right now. Maybe that's his house.
And before chat goes all crazy on us, it is important to note that as observers of the Osiris League cast, we do have the ability to go into matches that are at the cap of observing for casting purposes. And so before we start seeing all the threads and the Discord madness go crazy and the flames and pitchforks come out, just so you know how we got into a match that has 500 out of 500 observers. 30 seconds remaining, Dragothian. I don't need. I'm at a loss of words.
Yeah, I mean, again, in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, anybody can win at any time. That's what we were talking about. And again, just having seen 96RZ, I figured that it could be a possibility. But at the end of the day, your core belief, right? What's safe? What makes you feel comfortable? You're like, yeah, UCS. UCS is going to win. They're the powerhouse. They're the second kingdom in the entire game. They've had time to develop all their commanders. They've had time to gel and get together. And there's the victory for
Bam.
96RZ.
Before we go,
96RZ.
before we go into the next screen, Dragothian, let's do a small bet, and I hope you didn't go to the table, or else you already know and you're cheating. Did 96RZ cross the 10 million heals or no?
Oh, I have no idea. I didn't look.
What do you think? Yes or no? I think they did.
For all 30 players? Yes.
10 million total heals. Let's go take a look right now.
Let's do it.
19 million units healed.
Yep. I told you.
Take this for a second. I can't look at that. 19 million troops healed by the folks of 96RZ. My goodness gracious. UCS barely healing. I don't know if because they didn't have to or because they just thought they don't have to, or I don't know why. But 96RZ just kept blasting. My goodness. That's a new record.
Yeah. I've definitely not seen the number that high on the units healed. And again, we knew this was coming, right? We talked about it earlier in the match. UCS being, again, an older kingdom, they're going to have more troops. They've just had more time to train troops. And to be honest with you, looking at some of their past KVKs, especially the most recent one, they haven't necessarily had to throw away too many troops to get those victories. And they've got a lot of solid players with a lot of power inside of that alliance and inside of that kingdom. So they might not necessarily have had to heal the units that obviously 96RZ wanted to and did. But wow, just what a great match. Again, I think the point differential here, the 37,000 roughly versus the 31,000 roughly, it wasn't that close. It wasn't that close. Looking at the match, you could see a distinct advantage and a distinct pressure from 96RZ of imposing their will on the battlefield that you just did not get from UCS. And I'm really curious to see where UCS's strategy was. I think maybe that had to do with those missing players at the very beginning. There were a chunk where they were just down players, and then maybe the players that were missing weren't exactly the ones that, or were the ones that were really supposed to put the strategy on the battlefield.
Yeah, one of the things that someone in the comment section had pointed out is that not that everybody has to deal with substitutions occasionally, and that is true on the one hand. On the other hand, if two of your four main rally leaders who are the strategy drivers of a lane are not in the match versus two individuals who are rally fillers, it's a completely different story. And so it seems like this whole thing can be summarized for UCS as bad timing overall. It seems like all of their rallies are a bit mistimed. It seems like their takes were a bit mistimed. It seems like they had a solid idea of what they want to do, but they couldn't nail the timing down. And as part of driving a strategy forward, a strategy is built on a timeline. Once you defect out of the timeline very early on, the delta that happens between the timeline of the strategy you're trying to employ versus the one you're actually employing grows exponentially as time goes by. And as you mentioned, this was never close as it is right now, because quite frankly, it was just like this the whole time. When these guys had 5,000 points, these guys had 0 points. When these guys had 6, these guys had 1. That difference of 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 points hovered through the whole match. To think that, there was a last-minute clutch? No. Our 96RZ Royals, who are, by the way, still undefeated in Ark of Osiris in general, did an amazing job. I'm completely baffled. I think UCS lost this match a bit more than Royals have won it. I think that UCS did not show their best performance. It doesn't mean that we need to take credit away from Royals. Royals played amazingly well. But I think you and I can both agree UCS were not 100% either.
That's the way it looked on the battlefield. So we're going to have to find out. I mean, obviously, we have our birds that go out and try to find these things out for you guys, the community, and we're going to do that. That being said, 96RZ, champions of this match, and certainly putting their name on the scorecard, taking down a great, great kingdom in UCS, Kingdom 1002 in the Alliance UCS. Big deal. Big deal.
So one small thing for the folks who are still on the cast, we have a little bit of information coming in from UCS. It seems like there is a little bit of a disarray happening in the UCS camp, especially as we mentioned with folks who didn't show up to the match, at this match exactly. And so maybe it's just a hiccup, hopefully the leadership team that still exists within UCS managed to pull through to the next match and hopefully make it to the playoffs. One of the matches that the community has been waiting for the most is none other than JWM against UCS, the rematch, the final rematch. After these guys fought on the second or third Arc of Osiris, they've never managed to meet again, and they have to get a W in here to meet UCS in the playoffs. If to meet JWM in the playoffs, if JWM make it, of course. And this is right now a real bummer. I would really want to see that rematch happen.
Yeah, like you said, this was not an elimination match. Both of these teams came in having their first win in the books. They can certainly have a 2-1 record and proceed forward. It is a difficult group to be in. There's a lot of quality teams inside of the group that they're in. That being said, yeah, UCS is definitely out, certainly, and I would be interested to see if there's a little bit more info going in favor of UCS, maybe having some strategists outside of that arc being able to join, or if it was, like you said, a little bit of just people not joining, which would be a huge problem.
Dragothian, my friend, thank you very much for a second cast today. It's always a pleasure to cast with you. The community seems to really react well to this whole spiel of going back and forth, talking strategy, talking in-game, talking about the rest of the games. One more comment we got from the community already, which we will implement into future casts, is to talk a little bit more about the matches that are happening in parallel to the matches that we're watching. Unfortunately, we cannot watch every match, and I did mention towards the end the scores of the matches happening, but we will do our best through the cast to try to keep an eye on those matches as well, and remind you guys, let you guys know 2 or 3 times through the cast what's going on. So even if you cannot observe in-game, which a lot of people got locked out of, you're more than welcome to come into this stream, and we will make sure to in some shape or form update you, and hopefully if things might go well enough, we could try to somehow put the scoreboards on the table on the screen for you guys. I cannot promise anything, but we're definitely going to try to keep you guys updated on all the matches happening across the tournament. Dragothian, my man, thank you very much. Good luck on your match at 2 p.m. and I hope to see you again, and we'll definitely see you later tonight for another cast.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure. And yeah, 14 UTC is going to be a big time of day for everybody.
Heck yeah. And you are going to be at the center front because we will be casting the NB1 against AOC match. That is right. So that's going to be a big boy match. You guys definitely don't want to miss that. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel and turning on the bell to know when that is happening. Let's go back to the studio for a final farewell, and we see how we continue from here. Folks, thank you very much for being with us on today's second cast of the day. We take a quick break right now. This is no longer valid. Our 96RZ with 2 wins pretty much guarantee themselves into the playoffs. What an amazing feat. What an amazing feat. I know for a fact most of you did not see that coming. Rest in peace to all the beautiful bets that the folks left in here against the guys from 96RZ. Those who had faith are going to end up scoring big time. My coins went out the window too. It is what it is. Here's the thing. 2 more matches coming. We're going to have a back-to-back cast with a brand new caster coming into the next session. So you really don't want to miss out on it. Thank you guys again for being so supportive of the Osiris League cast. Don't forget to smash a like on the stream before you leave. And we'll see you guys at 1 p.m. UTC? That is right. We'll see you guys sooner rather than later. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care. Peace.